Hello, beautiful people. I figured I might as well talk about some Jean Paul Gaultier perfumes because I fell in love with one either earlier this year or maybe the end of last year. I can't really remember. And it had been a very long time since I'd owned a Jean Paul Gaultier perfume. It's one of those houses that I tried when I was very young and I felt was too mature for me and didn't really work. And then I didn't really go back into them until I was smelling newer stuff, most of which I couldn't really get along with, like Scandal, for instance. Um, so I was kind of surprised when I found one that I just thought was amazing. And then I've been kind of just testing some stuff out, trying to get some partial bottles, trying to, smell as much as I can so I could talk about it on my channel. So let's start where we should start, which is Jean Paul Gaultier's Classique. So the original Classique was made by Jacques Cavalier Belchud. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right at all. Please forgive me if I'm not. And I believe that he made a few from this collection, and then they moved into other perfumers' hands after a little while. So I only have this tiny sample of Classique because this is not a perfume that I love, to be fair. So I'm just going to put a picture up on the screen while I chat about it. Now, Classique came out in 1993. I was 11 years old at that time, and I don't know how I got this perfume. I can't remember if I asked for it as a present, which I did used to do. I remember begged, in fact, my mum for Obsession from Calvin Klein, just because I kept seeing adverts and I thought it seemed so cool. And I think it's very possible that I did the same with Classique, because I reckon I probably had it when I was still at school before I went to college. So in the UK, you'll know that, that means college. You go when you're 16 to 18 before university, if you don't stay at your sixth form. So when I was around about sometime between 13 and 16, I feel like I had a bottle of Classique. I don't remember. I know it came out as an eau de parfum at first, and now the Classique that we all know is an EDT. It's still an absolute beast of a perfume. So I had it. I didn't really wear it. I wanted it for the bottle. I still love the bottle. It's so beautiful. It's chic and it's perfectly Jean Paul. I mean, I used to love him. I think that's probably one of the other reasons I wanted it, because he presented Eurotrash with a man I had a huge crush on, Anton Dubec. So I'm going to have to put a little thing of Eurotrash up in this video just so you can see the madness of it. But it was a really weird late night Channel 4 TV show that had a lot of kind of weird sex stuff in it and was very cheeky and strange. An amazing voiceover. Anyway, I digress. So I had Jean Paul Gaultier Classique. It was just way too mature for me. It was way too strong. It was way too soapy. It was too floral. It was just not for me. Now, I have an appreciation for Classique now that I'm older. And a colleague of mine from many years ago, this was her signature scent for a long time. I remember when she changed to something else, just because she'd been wearing the same thing for so long. And I just remember saying to her, oh, this smells so much better on you than it did on me. But this is still not one that I can wear, really. So the interesting thing about Classique is I think it opens up really quite floral and green and a little bit kind of sharp. It's almost got that kind of aldehydic kind of smash in the face feel that you get with a lot of older perfumes. But this one dries down and kind of gets more vanillic as it goes. It gets sweeter and more vanillic. But then, for me personally, this then turned into something that is just almost a bit sickly on me, which is a weird thing to say, because I'm going to talk about perfumes that are much sweeter than this that I prefer. But I think it's to do with that vanilla sitting with the soapy florals, that there's just something that doesn't work for me here. And to my nose, whenever I first spray Classique, it makes me think of Petitgrain and Neroli, and not just Orange Blossom. Like, it gives me this kind of intense, bitter greenness, and it's extremely bitter on my skin for a long time. But it's also beautiful and spicy. It's kind of sexy in a very, I mean, classic is, Classique is the perfect name because this does smell kind of classic. It smells grown up, it smells sexy. It's just gorgeous, but it doesn't work for me. So the notes in the original Classique are orange blossom, star anise and rose, mandarin, orange, pear and bergamot. The mid notes are ylang ylang, ginger, orchid, tuberose, iris and plum. Base notes of vanilla, amber, musk, cinnamon and sandalwood. So I think, and also because it has this spiciness, it is quite an unusual scent. So I feel like if this works for you, you'd smell incredible in it. But if this isn't quite your jam, particularly if, like me, you're very fussy about orange blossom, I think this could become very irritating to wear, and that's what happens on me. I can definitely smell a bit of cinnamon. I definitely smell the ginger. There's a hefty dose of musk and amber in this, but it is definitely star anise, I'd say, is the top spice here, and it is quite a strange smell when it's that soapy, but it's also very beautiful. And this is certainly a perfume that on other people I would sniff them and think they smell incredible, but it isn't personally for me. There is no denying though that Classique is an absolute icon of a perfume. It's a game changer, it's amazing, and to be honest, Le Male exactly the same. My ex-partner used to wear that perfume, so I know that really well. It was his signature scent, and it's got this amazing kind of shaving foam scent to it, while also being like a vanilla perfume. It's such an interesting sweet male perfume. It definitely still smells masculine, but it has like this just hint of a unisex twist, which is so wonderful. It's a beautiful scent. It's one that I'd be like, although I don't want my husband to smell like that because, I've got too many associations with another person. But at the same time, like to other men, I totally recommend that as a fantastic perfume. And I am absolutely sure it's a bestseller. I'm sure it is. So let's talk next about the eau de parfum. Now, I actually have 2 bottles of this. Reason being, this is the one that I fell in love with, and I was just blown away by how this smells. So this absolute stunner is the most recent incarnation of the eau de parfum of Classique. So this one, unfortunately, also seems to have disappeared from the Jean Paul Gaultier website, which would suggest that it has been discontinued. But anyway, you can see this is a beautiful, clear red corset. It's in the glass. You've still got the little corset along the bottom with Gaultier along it. Really, really beautiful. So this is a perfume that I fell in love with when I was in Stratford. I was in Westfields. I was having a dinner with a friend of mine. I was waiting for her to arrive because I got there a bit early, and I did what I always do. I went and found a perfume shop and started smelling things. So this was one of those weird situations. I literally was over the other side of the shop. I was in the section where the Middle Eastern perfumes are. Now, that's not a section for me, generally speaking. The aroma chemicals used in a lot of Middle Eastern perfumes just absolutely aren't for me. But while I was standing over there, I kind of looked to the other wall, and there were just all of these really beautiful bottles, Jean Paul Gaultier. And obviously you're going to recognise a Jean Paul Gaultier. The Classique bottles are iconic. So I was like, what is that red one? I've never smelt that. Maybe it's time for me to give Classique another go. So I went over. I tried to smell it from the sprayer. And you can't smell a huge amount because, again, it doesn't have a lid. So that scent doesn't get contained, really. It doesn't hang around. And I was like, okay, I'm going to spray this on some paper. I sprayed it. I thought, this smells a bit like sweet ginger ale. I kind of like it. I let it dry down for a little bit. And I thought, okay, I don't think this has anything in that's going to bother me. So I sprayed it on my skin, and then I went to meet my friend. I spent our whole dinner every few minutes sniffing my arm and being like, this is amazing. So this little beauty I'm going to put here, and the notes for this version that they give you are top notes of rum, rose, Sicilian mandarin in the top, mid notes of orchid and narcissus, base notes vanilla, amber, tonka bean and sandalwood. Now then, This still smells enough like the original Classique that I think that is not a full set of notes. I'm absolutely sure there's still orange blossom in this. I'm 100% sure there's ginger in this. I feel like it still has some of the same spices, but this one is fruitier. It's still soapy, but it's a little bit less soapy, and it's still powdery, but it's possibly not as powdery. There's something about the richness and the sweetness of the rum with that mandarin and what smells genuinely still like ginger ale to me. It smells not like ginger beer, but like ginger ale, like this kind of lemonade-y take on this like effervescent ginger sparkling soda, right? There's definitely more rose in this, I'd say, and you know, you get the orchid. I think narcissus is quite noticeable. There is, to me, and I feel the same with Classique. Classique has a few little crossovers with Poem by Lancome. I think to wear them and overall they're quite different kind of experiences and different perfumes, but this one kind of sits, I think, in between them. And although I don't like the original Classique, I do like Poem, even though I find it sometimes a bit overwhelming. But this one, Classique Eau de Parfum, is just so sexy. That's all I was thinking. In the cab on my way home, I was already ordering this perfume because I was sniffing it and thinking, I think I love this. I think I love it. On the way home, I know I love this. Oh my God, am I actually going to buy a full price perfume? I bought it kind of full price from a seller that wasn't selling it at recommended retail price, of course. So I think this maybe cost me about £50, which for me, you know, I don't normally spend £50 on perfume unless I'm really, really sure about something. So this is just magical. It's sexy. When my husband smelt this one, he blind smelt it, but without seeing the bottle, and he thought it was sexy, quite strong as well. It's one that when you first spray it, smells light. It has that ginger ale smell, and it doesn't really grow until you've had it on your skin for a little while. And then, so you have to be careful, because if you put this on, it can become overwhelming if you put too much on. But yeah, once it heats up with the skin, this is so beautiful, so sexy. It's sort of everything that I wanted Classique to be, if you see what I mean. So Le Parfum, both of them were also made by Jacques Cavalier. And the other thing I wanted to say about this is that there is, I mean, pretty much to this date, there's only one Parfum de Marly perfume that I like. Generally speaking with them, they're another one that use loads of aroma chemicals that make me feel a bit queasy. But Saffanad, that one, that doesn't have aroma chemicals that make me feel queasy. That one, I think, smells very reminiscent of Classique, and particularly for me, because of the sweetness of Saffanad, the Eau de Parfum more so than the EDT. So, I mean, it has, I think, a bigger dose of ylang than either of the Classique perfumes, but I really do think that it's so similar. Like, Saffanad is the only Parfum de Marly that I would quite like to have in my collection, just because I love ylang. So, like, a version of this perfume, a version of Classique Eau de Parfum, but with like even more ylang, would make me very happy. But I don't really need it because I have this. And I'm pretty sure that I've smelt people wearing Saffanad and thought it was this. And I've definitely smelt someone who was actually wearing this. And the sillage from this scent is magical. So yeah, I really, really love this, and I think it's amazing. And because it's been discontinued, now is the time to try and grab it, honestly, because otherwise it's going to become super expensive. So I do want to mention, though, really quickly, I did manage to get a partial bottle of what I think might be the original Classique Eau de Parfum, or like, as in not the very first incarnation of Classique, but the first incarnation when they brought out a separate parfum, Eau de Parfum. You can see it's got this kind of lacy corset. Now, the notes listed on this one, this version in particular, are top notes of rum, tincture of rose, middle notes of vanilla, orchid, and narcissus, base notes vanilla, amber, tonka bean, and sandalwood. So I think they're technically the same, but I can smell the difference here. I get a little bit more of a perfumey quality from the original. I don't think it's as sweet and it's not quite as powdery, but generally speaking, they're very similar. They're both soapy, they're both quite rich, they both have that, ylang, orchid, orange blossom. There's always a lot of orange blossom in these, and I think they're very pretty, they're really nice. I think you'd be happy with either. I think if you like them, I feel sure that I can get through and wear this one. I don't feel like I need to pass it on because I also just have this little bottle. So I think they're both really pretty, but I definitely think the most recent version's a little bit more powdery and a little bit more sugary sweet. But they're both beautiful. What a stunning scent. They're so ladylike. They are, I would say, the original I would actually describe as mature. These are also a little bit mature compared to kind of the fashionable perfumes, the kind of Baccarat Rouges and the Delinas and the Good Girls, and all the gourmands that are trendy, Cloud and, all the vanilla perfumes. These definitely smell mature by modern standards, but they don't smell mature in a way that would suggest, you wouldn't suit this if you were in your 20s. I think it depends, your style, what you come across like. My goodness, if you're a pin-up girl, then this is going to smell good on you. Speaking of which, I don't have the bottle for this anymore because this is one that I sold on, but I did briefly have Classique Eau de Parfum Airlines from Jean Paul Gaultier. I will put up a picture of the lovely bottle so you can see. On Fragrantica, they've definitely got the wrong notes for the airline Eau de Parfum, because on the bottom of that bottle, it very clearly says Jean Paul Gaultier Classique Pin-Up. So Pin-Up, I'll put a bottle of that up as well for you to look at. Classique Pin-Up was a very popular perfume that sells for quite high prices now. And the notes that they list for that are top notes of ginger and citron, middle notes of orange blossom and marshmallow, base notes of vanilla and amber. And if you're looking at that and thinking orange blossom and marshmallow, I wonder if that smells anything like Love Don't Be Shy. Yes, it does. And it's kind of a bit fresher, not quite as syrupy. It's definitely much greener and more bitter in the top than Love Don't Be Shy. But when it dries down, it definitely does smell fairly similar to Love Don't Be Shy. It was really lovely, but I didn't feel like I needed another perfume that smelled a bit like Love Don't Be Shy, because I have a dupe all of that, and I have Sarah Jessica Parker's A Lovely Summer Sunburst. And that one is kind of like a much fresher take on the general Love Don't Be Shy profile. So I felt like I was covered and I didn't need to keep it. So Classique Eau de Parfum Airlines, that is a perfume that was not made by the original perfumer. But to be fair, the Classique Pin-Up, which I'm pretty sure is pretty much what the Airlines version was. And it does say on the bottom it's Pin-Up. And people have said that it smells like Pin-Up. But that's Fabrice Pellegrin, the perfumer behind one of my all-time favourite perfumes, Diptyque, Eau d'Oeil, Eau de Toilette and Eau de Parfum. Funnily enough, he also made Scandal. I think maybe, I don't know if he made the original, but he certainly made some of the flankers if he didn't make the original. I've seen his name on them and I really don't like those, but I think that's something, again, I kind of get a lot of patchouli and I find them a bit overwhelming. So here's an interesting fact. Saffanad is made by Fabrice Pellegrin, and he is, as I mentioned earlier, the perfumer who made the Classique Pin-Up. So I guess there's a bit of a crossover in that respect. I do find this quite often with perfumers. They will make perfumes for different houses that kind of smell really similar to each other. Fair enough, get that coin. But it's definitely very beautiful. It's a really, really nice perfume. And if you see it for a good price, the Pin-Up or the Airlines version, not the Eau Fraiche, because there is an Airline Eau Fraiche. That one was made by Daphne Bugey. Excuse me for my terrible pronunciations. I'll put a picture of that one up as well so you can see the difference. That one is, I think, a slightly different perfume. I don't think that one smells like Pin-Up. I think that one is actually much fresher. It doesn't have the marshmallowy kind of fluffy sweetness, I don't believe. I think that one looks and sounds like it smells a little bit more like the original Classique. But yeah, I mean, they all are very much close to each other. They all share a very similar DNA. So that is the main Classique ones that I have smelt and that I know about. So let's talk about the one where I think it really marks a change in the way that Jean Paul Gaultier perfumes smell. So this here, as you can see, this is the first of this type of bottle from Jean Paul Gaultier. These ladies are a little bit more of that kind of classic pin-up shape. The kind of Playboy bunny style, you know, the Marilyn shape where you've got the kind of beautiful curvature in the belly. You've got the soft curve of the bum. You've got the pointy boobs, you know. And then it turned into this sort of impossible body, you know, this small, low, round bum. But I absolutely love this as well. I love these bottles, although, you know, you've got the proportions are a bit kind of crazy, super wide at the top and not very wide at the bottom. But I do love the geometric shape of these. I think they're fantastic. So this particular perfume is called Classique Essence de Parfum. And again, I got this as a partial. Someone actually was selling these two used as a bundle, kind of in a, if you want to test them kind of way. And I took the opportunity to try and smell them. So this for me was a real disappointment. I was very sad about this because I think this is a perfume that people really, really loved, or like me, just really wanted to smell, because people who love it really love it. And I've seen people talking about this on YouTube. I've read lots of reviews about it, and the notes, they do look incredible. There's no denying. So let's look here. The top notes: tangerine, aldehydes, ginger. Mid notes of orange blossom, jasmine sambac. Base notes: whipped cream, vanilla, benzoin, cashmere wood. Now, they sound like amazing notes. I love aldehydes. I like whipped cream. The florals aren't necessarily my favourite, but I love benzoin. I love ginger. I normally don't mind if it's not too much cashmere wood. But there is a synthetic aroma chemically feel to this perfume that I don't get in the original, and I don't get in either of these eau de parfums. And I was really sad because this is just very much the sign of things to come with Jean Paul Gaultier perfumes going forward for me. And there was a couple of things that I found surprising about this. One is that I don't really get much in the way of creaminess from this. I still find it very floral, but it's kind of sweeter and more syrupy. It's still soapy. I'm not sure it's quite as powdery though as the other Classiques in the range so far. I mean, people might think I'm crazy. I am looking through here. Prada Paradox has been compared to this, and I do find it's in that kind of realm of scent. And of course it does still have some of the DNA from the original Classique. But weirdly, what I get from this is very similar to what I get from Girl of Now from Elie Saab. So I have that perfume. It took me a long time to come around to it because of the patchouli in it. And I do kind of feel like this smells like there's patchouli in it. But it just has something. It's not quite tarry. We haven't reached levels of tar yet that we will in the ones I'm about to talk about. But it just smells a bit weird. It doesn't smell like it's gone off at all. It just smells, firstly, like there's some kind of patchouli or something in the base that I'm finding a bit bothersome. But I feel like this just has some kind of synthetic wood in it and a very bitter and woody jasmine sambac. And it just doesn't really work for me. So I was really hoping that I would love this perfume and maybe I would savour the little bit that's left in it and just really enjoy it for special occasions. But I have to say, I don't really have the urge to wear this one because I just think I'd find it so irritating. It just doesn't quite sit right with me. There's some kind of ingredient in here which is rubbing me up the wrong way. And that, unfortunately, is what I will find with everything that now comes in this bottle. Next up, we have La Belle. So as I said, like the Scandal perfumes, no thank you. Those are all too strong, too sweet, and too aromachenically for me. But I was hoping that I would have more success with La Belle because people describe this as a pear and vanilla perfume. And I mean, pear is just my favourite note in perfumery. It really, truly, I am obsessed. I love pear, especially sweet pears. So I got this little sample to test it out, and I'm going to just put up a picture so you can see it properly now before I talk about it. So I had smelt La Belle before. I'd smelt it in store and I didn't like it. And then when they came out with, I think, a bottle that has a slightly less attractive and less pretty neckline. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try and see if the new version's any better for me. So the one I've got here is the current formulation of La Belle. This saw Quentin Biche coming in to do Jean-Paul Gaultier perfumes, and I know that Quentin Biche is very successful. People really love his perfumes, but for me, he is one of the worst perfumers for using all of the modern aroma chemicals that smell like literal poison to me. So the screechy chemicals, the tarry chemicals, the headache-inducing chemicals. And unfortunately, that is kind of the road that the Jean-Paul Gaultier perfumes have gone down for me since the La Belle line started. And it's a real shame because, let's talk about it now. The first La Belle, absolutely beautiful pear perfume. And when I first smell this, it opens up and it has the most delicious pear. People talk about it as being a cooked pear, and I totally agree. It has this kind of soft, sweet cooked pear scent about it. And it has a gorgeous vanilla in the base, and then it has that kind of interesting leathery accord. And it's extremely sexy, beautiful, fun. Really kind of, it's got that sultry thing, but because it's a kind of juicy fruitiness and it's a real burst of that, it's still got a kind of fun side to it. I was always going to have a bit of an issue because there is actually so much vetiver to me in this perfume, and vetiver on my skin becomes like really strong, a bit overpowering and quite masculine on me. So the vetiver I don't love in this, but you know, I probably could have lived with it for that pear. However, this opens up smelling amazing to me. Like La Belle smells beautiful, and then the more it dries down, the more chemically it becomes, and then eventually it just smells like literal tarmac. So I lose the beautiful perfume and it just becomes like a kind of burning rubber, burning wood smell on me. I mean, yeah, so unfortunately La Belle is just not a perfume that I can wear. And it's really sad. It really is a bit of a tragedy, to be honest, because I can see... I mean, pear is one of my absolute all-time favourite perfume notes. I just think it's amazing. But yeah, La Belle, not for me. So then I thought, right, let's try Le Parfum. I was equally as excited at this one. I think it might have an even more beautiful bottle if possible. So I'm going to put that up for you guys now. And hopefully that one is going to actually work for me. But again, Biche... it's actually Quentin Biche and Sonia Constant, and Sonia Constant made my one and only Valentino perfume, Donna Aqua, which is also an almond perfume, a pear and almond perfume, absolutely scrumptious. So anyway, if we look at the notes in La Belle Le Parfum, we've got pear, tonka bean, vanilla and jasmine basically. So I was quite excited about the mixture of tonka bean and vanilla because I really love that combination. It didn't list vetiver, so I was hoping that it wouldn't have that. But I have to say the pear in this one just isn't as good as the original La Belle. This, I think, is the sexier sister. I think Le Parfum is more sultry. It's kind of a little bit smoother. It doesn't have that slightly masculine edge to it. It's got a slinky feel about it. And this one, rather than the La Belle, this one to me starts off smelling quite chemically and then almost gets a tiny bit less chemically as it dries down. But for me, it does still smell like chemicals. This doesn't smell like a really beautiful perfume. And again, it's very sad because I think there's a lot of things about this I like. Although I do think if they'd have made this perfume with the tonka bean and the vanilla, and they'd have put the original juicy, bright, cooked pear, and a much stronger pear that you get in La Belle, this Le Parfum would just be incredible. But the pear is really quite subdued to me here, and I feel like the tonka is quite strong. The vanilla is actually voted as being stronger than the tonka, but I kind of feel like in this one the tonka is equal to, if not a little bit stronger than the vanilla. But anyway, yeah, so this one also is another one that did not work for me, and I was very sad about it. So I thought I would try a dupe called Glacier from Belle Maison Alhambra. And I was kind of excited about this one. It says on this one green pear, vanilla pod and bergamot. I mean, it's not really giving you anywhere near the kind of truth about what it smells like. And I think, to me, it almost has a kind of biscuity gourmand smell in it, which is interesting, a sort of cakey food smell. It also smells that it's aiming to be Le Parfum version of La Belle, more so than La Belle. I do think it has a little bit of a brighter pear like you get in La Belle, and unfortunately for me, it also has the tarry aroma chemical, and you can smell it almost immediately in this one. So I think when it dries down, though, I mean, it really, I think, is a little bit more similar to Le Parfum. But if you don't get that tarry smell, if you don't have a problem with that, and you like both of the La Belles, I think that Glacier called Glacier Belle from Maison Alhambra, I think that you might really enjoy this, and it's like a really affordable perfume. It's one that I'm gonna let my sister smell to see if she likes it. But yeah, it's because it also, to be honest, like all of the La Belle range have a little bit of a crossover with the Kayali Candy Rock Sugar, and that obviously is a beautiful pear perfume, but again, that also has the tarry aroma chemical in it, and it has patchouli as well, so that one's not for me either. The closest thing, to be honest, I've found to this general scent profile is Untold Absolute from Elizabeth Arden. The original Untold is actually a pear perfume. I have a little miniature of that, it's really cute. But the Untold Absolute, I mean, if you told me there was pear in it, I would totally believe you. But the notes that they give you are raspberry, bergamot and plum in terms of the fruit. But it has ginger, it's got vanilla, it's got tonka, benzoin, and it's just weirdly got a kind of slightly similar scent profile to the La Belle's and Candy Rock Sugar. So that's the one that works for me. That's the one that I have in my collection, and it's just unfortunate that I can't get any of these delicious pear perfumes from the La Belle range, because I mean the pear in the original La Belle is just spectacular, but yeah, not for me. So let's move on to the next one. So here I have La Belle Paradise Gardens from Jean-Paul Gaultier. I'll put up a picture. I have a feeling that they re-released this under a different name, and I will check that momentarily so I can tell you. But I was excited about this one. Firstly, again, the bottle, ridiculously gorgeous. I love these bottles, but as you can see from my room, teal is my favourite colour, kind of teal turquoise. So I was lusting after this bottle. So the notes they give you here are top notes of blue lotus, middle notes of iris, base notes of vanilla. This smells fruity and coconutty to me. So again, I'm quite sure this isn't the full set of notes. I'm going to click on this other one that's compared. La Belle Fleur Terrible. Which is the new one and which is the old one? Maybe Fleur Terrible is beforehand. I don't know. So this has something in it that is really, really beautiful. I do think, like I said, I'm getting something kind of fruity, fresh, aquatic. I can definitely smell a bit of iris. I mean, the water lily is obvious. It's such an aquatic floral. There is a sweetness. Again, not necessarily coming across to me particularly vanillic, just kind of sweet, ever so slightly powdery, watery, but it really gives me something coconutty. There is also something in here that I find screechy, and in the dry down it was tarry, and it made me quite sad because there are elements of this perfume that I really enjoy. And I have to say, this smells like a kind of more aquatic and fresher version of another perfume that I smell, which also dried down to smell like tar, which is Eternity Aromatic Essence for women. That one has coconut water in it, and like I said, I feel like this one smells like it's got coconut water in it. I'm not sure I would say it was lime in this Fleur Terrible or Paradise Garden, whichever one we're going to go by. But I definitely get something fruity, and I also get something slightly salty. So this is like a classic, fresh but kind of sweet, can become a bit cloying, I'd say. The same way with the Eternity Aromatic Essence, becomes very sweet and a bit cloying. But yeah, I mean, this is a beautiful summer perfume. It's feminine, it's pretty, but there is something head splitting. I mean, it's probably like I don't know if it's like an overdose of ambroxan or what it is. But then the more it dried down, the more it started to smell like tar to me. And I was like, oh no. This is the problem. Sometimes I get fooled because I think they smell quite good at first. And then when they're on my skin, after about an hour, all I can smell is basically burning rubber and burning wood. And that is an aroma chemical that Quentin Biche is very fond of. I don't know if it's Ambrofix or what it is, but it is eternal and I don't get on with it. So I have to say, again, that was another one that was disappointing to me because beautiful bottle, starts off lovely. My husband didn't like it though. We did a blind smell test, including that little sample, and he was highly unimpressed with it. So, okay. And then the last little sample I have is Divine Eau de Parfum. So this is the original Divine. Another gorgeous bottle. Here it will come. They went in the other direction for this gorgeous bottle in that they made it kind of smaller on top with very wide hips. Really beautiful, gorgeous. Love the bottles. So again, this is another Quentin Biche. I'm not surprised. It has, again, a kind of head-splitting, sharp, screechy aroma chemical in this. I don't know what it is. It doesn't say. This comes across to me like a kind of beachy fruit chuli. It does have a bit of sweetness, but it's not a very vanillic sweetness, this one. So the notes are calypsone, which I think is some kind of aquatic watermelon, is the idea. Bergamot and red berries. Middle notes, lily, ylang ylang and jasmine. Base notes, meringue, musk and patchouli. So I get a lot of the patchouli here and I don't like it. I find this a little bit more, it's quite white floral, even though there's definitely a bit of ylang ylang, but it's got a kind of beachy, summery floral feel to this. It's definitely tangy. There is quite a strange smell that I think is trying to be watermelon, but I'm not really getting as watermelon. And weirdly enough, when I press the main notes according to votes, the top one is oceanic notes like the sea, but that's not actually listed here, so that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like beachy, salty, almost sandy, even though it's not massively powdery. A little bit, but not like crazy powdery. And then meringue is the second note, followed by the kind of watermelony note. I know I'm getting a lot of patchouli here. I'm actually getting a fair bit of the red berries because I'm getting a sharp fruit and the bergamot as well. Um, but yeah, it's very white floral. It's crazy. The votes, I'm going to have to put a little picture up. The votes include notes that are not listed for this perfume. So I don't know how that happens on Fragrantica. I don't know how you can vote for notes that aren't listed. So that's kind of fascinating. Okay. Yeah, when I go to the votes, you can see other notes that aren't listed in the pyramid. Look, it's a mystery to me. I don't know. But I have to say, I don't like this one very much. It kind of doesn't smell particularly original or interesting either. I feel like there's a lot of perfumes in that kind of Olympia realm that smell a bit like this. I did have one called Amber Elixir Crystal from Oriflame, which came in a turquoise bottle that I adored. Sadly, dried down to have that tarry aroma chemical, so I couldn't wear it. But that is probably my favourite version of this kind of smell. It has a coconut milk note, but it also has a very watery feel to it. And then it's got this kind of slightly fizzy violet and then more sugar cane than it is vanilla, but it's still got that beachy feel. There's still that orange blossom. There's still like florals. It's very, very pretty, that one. I think it's nicer than this, but it's in that same realm. You know, you can get all kinds of versions of this particular scent. I find that the Paradise Garden one is a bit more interesting than this. I just feel like the modern Jean Paul Gaultiers are not made with me in mind. These are by a perfumer who seems to be working quite hard to not use many or any natural ingredients. And I'm not someone who thinks that perfumes need to be natural. I've got a ton of aroma chemicals in my collection, of course, but the kind of trendy modern ones just really don't work for me. I find them to smell kind of poisonous, and unfortunately Quentin Biche is an absolute king of that. So that's where I'm going to end, guys. This was my little journey into Jean Paul Gaultier perfumes. I have to say, like, as far as I'm concerned, the three big ones are definitely the original Classique and the Classique Eau de Parfum. The pin-up version's really cute as well, but like I said, there's quite a few versions of that sort of orange blossom marshmallow scent around nowadays. But I think the original Classique truly is a classic. It's an icon. It's a goddess from the 90s, and you know, it's still strong. It still lasts for ages. It's still pretty impressive. I have to say, I do think that the Eau de Parfum version of Classique just smells a tiny bit more modern. It smells a little bit less like the 90s while still retaining that essential kind of DNA from Classique. So that's always going to be my favourite. I just think it's an easier wear. And yeah, I honestly think, even though people are going to say that I'm insane, I'm sure, I think that if you've been really wanting to know what Essence de Parfum smells like, then I think maybe just try Girl of Now. I know that they've got different notes, but somehow they really give me a similar feel. I'd be really interested, in fact, if you love Girl of Now and you love this one, or you love one and you don't love the other, do say down below. Let me know. Again, it might just be that there's certain aroma chemicals in both that are making them smell really familiar, but they're both very kind of sweet, syrupy orange blossom perfumes to me with what smells like patchouli in the base. So, you know, that's just kind of what I get from them. And I get the creaminess from almond in Girl of Now, but I get a creaminess from the whipped cream in this one, even though neither of them are massively creamy to me. They're just kind of sweet and syrupy. They almost both smell like there's honey or something in them. They've got that honeyed sweetness. But yeah, so I'm going to call it a day there because I've been talking for ages. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do let me know what your favourite Jean Paul Gaultier perfumes are down below, and let me know the ones you really don't like as well, because it's always interesting. Everyone smells things very differently. That's what I know for sure. So thanks again for watching. If you're not already subscribed, please do consider subscribing. It really helps my channel a huge amount. And I'll see you again soon with some other really random video. All right, bye guys.